Hello, freshmen. Um, Welcome to Romeo and Juliet Act 4. We're going to start reading Act 4 today. And Act 4 is kind of interesting because we're on the downward slope of the play. We're in the throes of tragedy. We had our climax. And Act 4 actually goes pretty quickly because not a lot happens in Act 4. We have to just, have a couple plot points that develop and then get to the end. And so it goes pretty fast. And so we might as well get going. In this video, we're going to look at Act 4, Scene 1 and Act 4, Scene 2. So let's scroll down. And remember that we're doing our annotations. So we're highlighting in blue, orange, we're underlining in blue, we're doing notes in the margins. And that's the first thing we're going to do. So Scene 1, we're at Friar Lawrence's cell. And the reason we're here is Paris is at the church setting up the wedding because that is the man's job. He has to find a priest. He has to find a church. So he's there talking to Friar Lawrence saying, hey, I'm going to get married to Juliet. We need to set this up. On Thursday, sir, the time is very short. My father Capulet will have it so, and I am nothing slow to slack his haste. You say you do not know the lady's mind, even as uneven as the course. I like it not. So Friar Lawrence is trying to say, hey, maybe we should ask Juliet if she's okay with this. Have you talked to her? Have you gone and got her to love you? What's going on? Now, Friar Lawrence is saying that because he knows what has really happened because he was involved with this secret wedding. And he is like, oh man, I'm going to get in trouble. Moderately she weeps for Tybalt's death, and therefore have I little talked of love, for Venus smiles not in a house of tears. Now, sir, her father counts it dangerous that she doth give her sorrow so much sway, and in his wisdom hastes our marriage to stop the inundation of her tears, which too much minded by herself alone may be put from her by society. Now, do you know the reason of this haste? All right, so we're going to click here and we're going to make a comment. So Capulet and Paris think that Juliet is still sad because of Tybalt's death. And so they are going to get her married quickly to make her happy. So they don't understand why she's really upset. She's upset because Romeo's banished and she's being forced to marry somebody that she doesn't love. She's already married. She has all these problems, right? Friar Lawrence says this to himself because it's an aside. So Paris can't hear this. I would I knew not why it should be slowed. Look, sir. Now he says this to Paris. Look, sir, here comes the lady towards my cell. So now here comes Juliet. Remember, at the end of last scene, end of last act, Juliet was saying she was going to go to Friar Lawrence and confess her sins of being a brat child to her father. She made her father angry. But really, she's going there to get some sort of solution. Happily met my lady and my wife. That may be, sir, when I may be a wife. That may be, must be love on Thursday next. What must be shall be. That's a certain text. Come you make confession to this father? Which is a really prying question. You don't go and ask people, are you here to make confession? Did you do some sins? You're not supposed to say that to people. I'll answer that. To answer that, I should confess to you. Do not deny to him that you love me. I will confess to you that I love him. So will ye, I am sure, that you love me. If I do so, it will be of more price, being spoke behind your back than to your face. Poor soul, thy face is much abused with tears. The tears have got small victory by that, for it was bad enough before their spite. Thou wrongest it more than tears with that report. That is no slander, sir, which is a truth, and what I spake it to my face. Thy face is mine, and thou hast slandered it. It may be so, for it is not mine own. Are you at leisure, Holy Father, now, or shall I come to you at evening mass? My leisure serves me, pensive daughter, now. My lord, we must entreat the time alone. God shield, I should disturb devotion. Then he takes Juliet by the hand, right? Juliet, on Thursday early I will rouse ye. Till then adieu, and keep this holy kiss. And then he kisses her and exits. Now he says, on Thursday morning I will rouse thee. I will wake you up. And so we have to talk about this a little bit. There was this tradition back in the old days that when you got married, the bridegroom or the groom would show up at your house in the morning and wake you up. And it was like, all right, I'm your Lord now. I'm in charge, and I'm waking you up, and I'm taking you to the church to join my family. And there was like a whole march and everything, and everyone would walk to the church together. It was a very interesting tradition that we don't do anymore. So now Juliet she can be herself. She doesn't have to pretend for Paris anymore. Oh, shut the door, and when thou hast done so, come weep with me, past hope, past cure, past help. Ah, Juliet, I already know thy grief. It strange me past the compass of my wits. I hear thou must, and nothing may prorogue it, on Thursday next be married to this county. Tell me not, friar, that thou hearest of this, unless thou tell me how I may prevent it. So we're going to underline prevent. And we'll underline in blue. Good. So we're going to underline prevent. And then let's go ahead and make a comment box off of prevent. And essentially she's saying, oh man. All right. Something happened. Here we go. Prevent. Comment box. So she's saying, help me, Friar Lawrence, because no one else will. If you remember, she asked her mother for help, and her mother said no. She asked the nurse for help, and the nurse says, you probably should just marry with Paris. If in thy wisdom thou canst no help, do thou but call my resolution wise, and with this knife I'll help it presently. So we're going to highlight that in orange. So she brought a knife with her. And then we're going to make a comment box right here. So again, Juliet's solution is suicide. God joined my heart and Romeo's, thou our hands, and ere this hand by thee to Romeo sealed shall be the label to another deed. She says, you married us. You took our hands and put them together. And if you can't solve this, my hand will be the one that does another thing, which is kill herself. Or my true heart with treacherous revolt turn to another, this shall slay them both. Therefore, out of thy long experienced time, give me some present counsel. Or behold, twixt my extremes, and to me this bloody knife shall play the umpire, arbitrating that which the commission of thy years and art could to no issue of true honor speak. Be not so long to speak, I long to die. If what thou speakest, speak not of remedy. All right, so we're going to highlight this. This is a important line. Be not so long to speak, I long to die. She says, everything is awful, and I really just want to kill myself. Hold, daughter, I do spy a kind of hope which craves as desperate an execution as that is desperate which could prevent. If rather than to marry County Paris, thou hast the strength of will to slay thyself, then is it likely thou will undertake a thing like death to chide away the shame that copest with death himself to escape from it. And if thou darest, I'll give thee remedy. So he says, whoa, stop. If you have the strength to kill yourself, then I have something that might solve the problem. So we're going to highlight those lines in orange. Let's go ahead and make a comment box also. So he says, Friar Lawrence says that he sees a solution if Juliet is willing to kill herself. Then he has a plan that is like death. So not death, but something like death. Juliet, oh, bid me leap rather than marry Paris from the battlements of yonder tower, or walk in thievish ways, or bid me lurk where serpents are, chain me with roaring bears, or shut me nightly in a charnel house, or covered quite with dead men's rattling bones, with reeky shanks and yellow chapless skulls, or bid me go into a new-made grave and hide me with a dead man in his shroud. things that to hear them told have made me tremble, and will do it without fear or doubt, to live an unstained wife to my sweet love. All right, so we're going to highlight quite a bit of this in orange, but before we do that, let's go ahead and let's underline charnel house, because we're going to have to define that word. So we're going to underline that in blue. But then the rest of it, not the rest of it, but a lot of it, we're going to highlight in orange. So let's highlight this in orange. And we're going to go all the way down to shroud. There we go. All right, so then off of charnel house, let's make a comment so we can define what that is. And a charnel house is a building or vault where corpses and bones are piled. A common grave. So in this time period, some people were not rich enough to have their own grave, or, in Italy, a lot of the land in Italy is below sea level. And so if you dig, you're going to hit water. And so instead of having graveyards where they dig down and they put the dead bodies under the ground, they often had graveyards where the graves were above ground and you had like tombs and you would go inside. That's why the Capulets have a tomb. They have a family tomb. And some people didn't have enough money to afford a tomb. And so what they would do instead is the graveyard would build these common buildings, a charnel house, where they could just throw people's bodies, because we have to have some place to keep them. And, they can't dig, and they don't want to, you can't just put bodies wherever you want. So they'd have a common grave. And if you were really poor, they'd just throw you in there and call it good. And so she says all these things she would rather do than marry Paris. She would rather leap off the battlements of a tower to her death. She'd rather become a thief. She would rather walk around where serpents are. She would rather be chained up with roaring bears. She'd rather sleep in a charnel house with dead men's bones covering her up. And she would rather go into a new-made grave or hide with a dead man in his shroud. All these things she would rather do. So really great imagery right here, but she really does not want to marry Paris. Hold then, go home, be merry, give consent to marry Paris. Wednesday is tomorrow. Tomorrow night, look that thou lie alone. Let not thy nurse lie with thee in thy chamber. Take thou this vial, being then in bed, and this distilled liquor drink thou off. When presently through all thy veins shall run a cold and drowsy humor, for no pulse shall keep his native progress but surcease. No warmth, no breath shall testify thou livest. The rose in thy lips and cheeks shall fade to paly ashes. Thy eyes' windows fall. So let's stop for a minute and let's highlight all of this in orange. And then we'll keep going. To paly ashes, thy eyes' windows fall like death when he shuts up the day of life. Each part deprived of supple government shall stiff and stark and cold appear like death. And in this borrowed likeness of shrunk death, thou shalt continue 42 hours, and then awake as from a pleasant sleep. Now, when the bridegroom in the morning comes to rouse thee from thy bed, there art thou dead. Then, as the manner of our country is, in thy best robes, uncovered on the bier, thou shalt be borne to that same ancient vault where all the kindred of the Capulets lie. In the meantime, against thou shalt awake, shall Romeo by my letters know our drift, and hither shall he come, and he and I will watch thy waking, and that very night shall Romeo bear thee hence to Mantua, and this shall free thee from this present shame, if no inconstant toy nor womanish fear abate thy valor in the acting of it. All right, let's highlight some more stuff. So we're going to highlight in orange because this is all really good plot stuff. We're going to highlight all the way down to Mantua. All right, so this is what we call Friar Lawrence's plan. And in the margin over here, we're going to make some text boxes. We might need to make them relatively small, not super small, so we can write down what he says we're going to do. So number 1 is go home, be happy. He says, be merry. And he says, consent to marry Paris. That's step number 1. We're going to go home. We're going to look like we're happy. We're going to pretend. We're going to say we're going to marry Paris, right? Second part is go to bed alone and then drink the vial. Now, when we hear go to bed alone, that sounds strange to us because you're like, why wouldn't she go to bed alone? Her mother figure is the nurse, and I would assume that for many years of her life, the nurse slept in the same room as her, right? Like that's her job. She's supposed to take care of her. It's her mother figure. The other thing is there is this tradition that with the whole bridegroom thing and the bridegroom waking you in the morning, you would have your attendants, your maids, your maid of honor sleep in the same room with you to kind of protect you. And so you can have a girls' night before you go and get married and all that stuff. It was a thing, right? And so there is this tradition that the nurse or her mother or someone should stay with her that night and keep her comfort as she prepares to get married to Paris. Friar Lawrence is saying, do not participate in that tradition. You need to go to bed by yourself so you can drink the vial. All right, number 3 is the liquid will make you look dead. Now, he gives her this potion, right? And this thing doesn't exist, all right? There's no potion that will make you look dead, but you're really alive. Because he says your breath will stop, you will not have color in your cheeks anymore, your body will go cold, but you're still going to be alive. There is no such thing. It's made up. Because if there was, you would actually be dead, right? If you stop breathing, you die. All right, number 4 is you will stay like this for 42 hours. He says 2 and 40, that's 42. 42 hours, and they will think that you are dead. All right, we're going to move that one up a little bit. All right, number 5, the next thing. Let's scroll down a bit. Number 5. You will be taken to the Capulet's tomb. All right, that's step 5. Step 6. I will write to Romeo to let him know what is going on. Okay, and then step 7. Romeo will come and take you to Mantua. Now, before we talked about how Juliet cannot go with Romeo to Mantua. This is how we solve that problem. Because if she's actually dead, if everybody thinks she's dead, no one's going to be looking for her elsewhere. And so if she just ran away, people would start looking for her. But if she's dead, people think she's dead, no one is going to say that. Now, when we look at this plan, it seems like a pretty good plan. There's one step, though, where things are going to fall apart. And that's the step where things are out of our hands. So all these steps where Juliet has to do something, she's going to do it. She's so desperate not to marry Paris that she said she wanted to be buried in a charnel house with dead men's bones on top of her. She's going to do these steps. The one step, though, that is not going to work out is number 6, right? Because Friar Lawrence, I'm just going to kind of spoil it for you. He's not going to do this himself. That's what he should do. He should just go and talk to Romeo, not write a letter and send it to Romeo. He needs to just travel to Mantua and go talk to him. But he doesn't, right? And 7, Romeo would do that too because he wants to be with Juliet. All right, let's finish this out. Give me. Oh, tell me not. Tell not me of fear. Hold, get you gone, be strong and prosperous. In this resolve, I'll send a friar with speed to Mantua with my letters to thy lord. So you see, here it is, right there. It wasn't that much further on. He's not going to send the letter. He's going to send another priest to go deliver the letter. He should be doing it himself. Love, give me strength, and strength shall help afford. Farewell, dear father. All right, so that's scene 1. You do have some after reading marking to do. especially futility of fighting fate. Not a lot of past against future, not a lot of light of dark, futility of fighting fate. Look for those. Now, let's go down to 4-2. And fortunately for you, we're going to skip 4-2 because nothing really happens of note in 4-2. All this is Capulet and Lady Capulet, and then these servants are setting up the wedding, the whole feast and everything. They're decorating the house. They're getting ready. And Juliet comes and apologizes to her father. It's that first part of Friar Lawrence's plan, right? Where he says, go home, be happy, give consent to marry Paris, right? So she's doing that. She's going home. She's being happy. She's saying, yeah, I'll marry Paris. And her father is really happy now, right? So we're not reading this. We're not marking it up. We're not doing after reading annotations. We're just going to totally skip Act 4, Scene 2 because it's not really that important. Nothing big happens in this one. All right. So that is all for this video. I'll see you next time where we'll continue reading Act 4. Bye-bye.